Last time on Guns and Glitter, Grace admitted to her sister what she does for a living, but her moment of honesty resulted in her getting kicked out of her family's home. Welcome to CC Writes. My name is CC Lepki. Today I am sharing with you part 8 of my story, Guns and Glitter. She had nowhere to go. Her bank account was empty from the last hospital bill she paid for her father. Her next shift wasn't for another day, and she had no money for food or a hotel room. Not once in her entire life had Grace ever gone without her family. She boarded a bus for the city, thankful that she'd remembered to grab her city bus pass on the way out. If nothing else, the bus ride would give her time to come up with a plan. Any plan. Passengers crowded in on all sides, forcing Grace to squeeze in as close as she could to the window with her duffel bag held uncomfortably on her lap. The grinding of the engine drowned out most sounds until she could close her eyes and pretend she was alone. What she was doing at the strip club didn't feel wrong. For once in her life, Grace actually felt good about herself and what she was capable of. The other women were really sweet and supportive. Mr. Nelson was a creep, but other than that, it was actually a really good job. She had her misgivings at first. Of course she did. But the reality of it was so much different from what she'd expected. Grace braided and unbraided her hair as the bus bounced over every pothole the street had to offer. Its slow pace was made excruciatingly worse by all the stops along the way. Eventually, the bus crawled to a stop near enough to the city center that Grace felt comfortable disembarking. She walked slowly along the streets, watching shoppers and professionals hurrying about their days without a care in the world. The midday sun dropped lower in the sky, and her heart started to pound frantically as she struggled to figure out what she was supposed to do next. Her legs ached from walking. The duffel bag made her shoulder go stiff. It wouldn't be long before the sun set completely, and she didn't know of any place where she could stay for the night. Surely there's a homeless shelter somewhere. Grace canvassed the area street by street until she finally found what she was looking for. A small storefront boasted a sign for a soup kitchen and shelter. She wandered in, eyes roving around a room with empty picnic tables and a small window with a service counter. Through the window there was a kitchen with 1 or 2 people, busy wiping down counters and cleaning pots left over from the evening meal. "Excuse me." One of the men glanced at her. "Can I help you?" He kept scrubbing the pot he was working on. "I saw the sign outside. I need a place to stay for the night." He stopped scrubbing. His brows knit tightly together as he frowned. I'm sorry, ma'am. This is a men's shelter." "So you can't make room for one woman?" He shook his head. "It's policy. I'm really sorry." Grace scuffed her shoe against the ground, chewing on the corner of her lip. "Could you maybe point me in the direction of a women's shelter? Are you trying to get away from a domestic abuse situation, or do you have kids?" Grace shook her head. The man sighed. "The only other shelter in the area is for battered women. I actually don't think there are any others." "So what happens when a woman just happens to be homeless? Men can have a place to stay, but I'm not allowed to because I have a vagina?" She clenched and unclenched her fists, furious. "Women tend to have a lower rate of homelessness than men." He scratched his salt and pepper beard thoughtfully. "You could try the battered women's shelter. They might have room for you there, but I think they've been full up for the past several months." Grace snorted indignantly. "Never mind." "I'm sorry I couldn't help." She didn't say anything. As she stood alone in the middle of their dining area, watched closely by the unhelpful man in the kitchen, she thought about crying. It wouldn't help her situation, but it would certainly make the man feel bad. If she were even a little bit more vindictive, she might have done it. Instead, Grace lifted her chin and walked away. It was fully dark outside. With no options left, she picked her way down the well-lit streets and familiar avenues until she came to rest under the shadow of the Paztec building. She dropped her duffel bag between two stone columns and sat down next to it. Next to the building, she would be protected from the wind. If it started to rain in the middle of the night, she would be out of the worst of it. It was as good a place to sleep as any, so Grace made herself as comfortable as she could possibly be pressed against a window with her duffel bag as her pillow. One night on the streets wasn't going to break her. It was only temporary. Grace covered her face so no one would see her cry. Lately, it felt like all of her temporary solutions lasted a lot longer than she wanted them to. She forced her eyes closed and let her breath even out. If she was lucky, she would wake up tomorrow, maybe a little bit sore, and everything would be okay. Fat chance, she whispered to herself, because Graciela Marroquin was not a lucky person. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Guns and Glitter. I hope you like the story so far. If this is your first time watching and you like what you heard, then make sure to go back and check out the story from the beginning. I'll post the link in the description. This is a continuing story, and I plan to share the entire thing with you on a weekly basis until the end. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification button so you'll know when the next episode comes out. Till next time, see you later.